cynicism is gone.
Hello everyone, Joshua Myers here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the original Prom Night from 1980.
These are the girls of Hamilton High. Tonight they'll be more beautiful than ever before in their lives. Because tonight is prom night, and someone will come to the prom alone just to watch them dance, to see them fall in love, to see them die. Prom night. If you're not back by midnight, you won't be coming home. Rated R.
Prom Night stars Leslie Nielsen, Jamie Lee Curtis, Casey Stevens, Anne-Marie Martin, Robert A. Silverman, and is directed by Paul Lynch. The plot to the original Prom Night is that a max killer stalks 4 teenagers who were responsible for the accidental death of a little girl 6 years earlier at their high school senior prom. Now, before I get on with this review, I would like to say I'd never seen Prom Night before. This is the first time I watched it. The most I knew about beforehand was, of course, it took place during a high school prom, there's a killer stalking, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in the movie. And I know this came out after the original Halloween during the 80s slasher craze. That's the most I knew about Prom Night until I watched it. I didn't watch any reviews or anything like that until, recently after I watched it for the first time. But, my thoughts are still the same on it, and, I do have some thoughts on this movie, so let's just get right into it. There are actually some really good cinematography in this movie, mostly during the last act, when they get to the prom and the prom is going on and everything. I think it's mostly because of the lighting and, all that stuff. It's really good, actually. It's a really fun setting. Especially in that last act. And speaking of which, just most of the positives are the last act. Like, the last act, I think, really saved this movie from being a lower rating. The last act for me starts at when they get to the prom and they're on the dance floor and all that stuff. It's fun, it's energetic, and to be honest, I will admit, the only thing I had going through my mind when I saw Jamie Lee Curtis dancing with whoever that guy was, that's a negative for when we get to it, but the only thing that I thought going to my mind was that line said in the original Halloween by Jamie Lee, like when Jamie Lee Curtis, as Laurie Strode, was talking to her friend Annie and talking about the homecoming dance and everything.
You could ask somebody. No, I could. Sure you could. All you have to do is go up to somebody and say, you want to go to the dance? You could do that, I couldn't. Well, you could ask Dick Baxter, he'd go out with you. I'd rather go with Ben Tramer. Ben Tramer? I knew it! See, you do think about things like that, huh, Laurie? Shut up. He's cute! Ben Tramer.
Ooh, maybe this is an alternate reality where Ben Tramer survives and actually went to the homecoming dance with Laurie. So yeah, this is finally justice for Ben Tramer. And also when it gets to the first chasing of the movie between the killer and Wendy, the only reason I remember some of these characters' names, by the way, is because I had to look them up. Again, we'll get to that in my negatives. But there's this chasing between the killer and Wendy, who is one of the characters that's not Jamie Lee Curtis. And I was like going to say, oh, they're going to do another Michael Myers ripoff chasing. And I'm like, that killer runs extremely fast. Not just fast, but he's athletic as fuck. This is probably the most athletic killer in a horror movie I've seen yet. Did he took dance lessons before he started to go out and kill people? And knowing that too, during this scene, it is so suspenseful. This is probably the most suspenseful sequence in the entire movie. And because it's, I think, just paced so well. I was honestly thinking, thought she would have died, within, at most 5 minutes into the chase scene. But no, it keeps on going on and on, and I was like, no, I was on the edge of my seat, I will admit. I was kind of surprised by that. Also, there's another scene. It's with this one girl and this one guy. They're in this van, this kind of hippie-looking van, and basically the killer shows up, kills the date. He gets all pissed and everything. And this was actually a smart move. So the killer tried to come into the van to kill him, but instead he punched him in the face, and therefore the killer just, you know, basically gets punched all the way to the ground. And he tries to run over the killer, actually. In fact, he gives the killer he basically beats the shit out of the killer. That's actually a smart move for a slasher movie. And then by the end of the chase, of that chase sequence, it's like the killer gets it to the point where the driver is not paying attention, and he actually drives off a cliff, and it fucking explodes. I was not expecting that. I was expecting, the killer to choke him to death, and then the car stops, or the killer to fling the guy out of the car and stab him, or something like that. I was expecting something like that, but not death by driving your car off a cliff and it exploding. I was not expecting that, especially for a movie called Prom Night. And then just in general, the whole reveal of the killer and that. I won't give spoilers for anybody who has not seen Prom Night, but it did actually shock me. I didn't guess who, that was the killer. Oh, and also, in terms of music, I actually did like the music for the most part in this movie. Again, mostly towards the last act, to be honest. Mostly when they're at the prom too. Like dancing and that. I swear I'm not going to be able to get that one damn song out of my head. The whole Prom Night song, actually. Like this song here.
Prom night, everything is alright.
And that too, I honestly thought some of the acting was pretty good. Mostly from Jamie Lee Curtis and Leslie Nielsen, who at this point I only saw one other film that Leslie Nielsen was in, and that's another horror film, and that's Creepshow, which I thought he was good in that. And he also is good in this too, actually. Not gonna lie. And Jamie Lee Curtis is really good in it too. But honestly, for me, those are my only positives. And all that stuff is mostly within the last act. I do have a few negatives here. I thought for most of the movie it wasn't scary. You know? Yeah, they did have some stalking stuff and that, but I don't know, for some reason when they do show the stalking scenes and scenes with the killer and that, it almost feels like a totally different movie than what you've been seeing so far. And I do have a theory on that. I can't confirm it because I haven't done the research on this, but if you guys happen to know, just let me know in the comments down below. But I think what happened with this and why it feels like that to me is maybe because Prom Night was originally not to be a horror movie. Because, I mean, there is a lot of comedy in this. There is, some kind of, charm to it, for the most part. And then it's, the people involved were, I think probably what happened was eventually, closer to when they were about to begin filming, they eventually got Jamie Lee Curtis on board. And the original Halloween came out, only a few years ago, and the slasher craze is booming at this point because of that film. So, they decided, hey, let's simply have Jamie Lee Curtis here, let's turn this into a horror movie. We'll film shots with a killer and that, and it will probably be a hit. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe I got from it. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. If I'm right, just tell me in the comments too, because I can't confirm that, because I haven't done my research on that. But also another thing is, I have an issue with the killer, more so. More so in terms of some part, like some stuff with the killer. For one, I kind of do like the design of the killer, but I don't like the type of mask he's wearing. I would prefer it if it was kind of morph suit mask to where you didn't see his eyes or mouth. I think that would have been much creepier with that voice. Like that. That would have been creepier, I think, in my opinion. Not only that too, he's kind of a weak killer if you think about it. I mean, just look at how many times somebody's been able to push him down to the ground, even just by a punch. Just by a fucking punch! He got punched to the ground. And stuff like that, and he gets hit with a shovel, he falls, he's just so clumsy, you know, and how can anybody really be intimidated by this guy? And then to be honest, the last act was kind of like embarrassing, I think, for the killer, considering the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis and her boyfriend in the movie completely beat the ever-living shit out of the guy. In fact, I think they did more damage to him than he did to Jamie Lee Curtis in him. Kind of a weak-ass killer. I feel like I could probably take him down easily. Also, another negative I have is while it's trying to build up, you know, the fact that there's a killer in that, and there's this whole mystery in terms of who the killer is. Although, okay, that could have worked if, for one thing, it's not really a murder mystery movie. It doesn't play as a murder mystery. There is cops involved in trying to locate this guy, and there's some misdirections, of course, and a lot of them are obvious misdirections, which is another negative. Like, they're so fucking obvious, it's like, yeah, that's not the killer. Yeah, that's not the killer. So, yeah, so it's like, why have a mystery aspect to this film if, like, because it seemed like that's what they were trying to go for, but they failed at it miserably. And here's the thing, recently I think I've realized I love horror mystery movies. You know, stuff like Saw and all this different stuff, you know, and yeah, I think they failed at it miserably. And also another negative I have, this is one of those other slasher films that just uses, although to be honest, not as bad as other slasher films around this time, but still utilize gore and nudity unnecessarily, just for the sake of having gore and nudity. But again, still not as bad as other slasher films like the Friday the 13th movies and stuff like that. It's very downplayed with that compared to it, but not as downplayed as, like, let's say the original Halloween, which didn't really need to use any of that really. But honestly, for me, that's it with my negatives. So with that said, I'm going to give Prom Night a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, for me, I think it's a little bit better than okay. I definitely got more than I thought I was going to get out of it. And especially, I think what saved it for me, honestly, was that last act. If that last act wasn't in there, I probably would have gave this movie like a 2.5 out of 5 stars, or at the very most a 3 out of 5. But because of the last act, it pushed it up to 3.5 out of 5 stars. Overall, I like this movie fine. It's definitely not up there with some of my favorite horror movies, especially 80s horror. But it is actually not a bad slasher movie, actually. I honestly recommend checking it out if you have not seen Prom Night. But if you have, then maybe give it another rewatch. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.